I've seen some beautiful work coming up on the screen lately. You folks are really turning out some beautiful work. I hope y'all send in those photographs to JJ for our newsletter, because boy, I printed out copies of the newsletter and pushed them around the other day. I found it at the library. I can print them in color, so I printed a couple of copies in color and put them out where I go to the clinic. And I got the same reaction. I put one down the other day, and I don't remember what piece was on the cover. It was this week's or last week's. And this man picked up, he looked at it, he said, and this is a quote, "Holy hell, where did that come from?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "That thing. Well, where did you get that?" And I said, "See the guy? Yeah." He said, "He's a friend of mine. He made that." And he said, "Wow, that's something else. You wouldn't see that on Wall Street in one of those art shows." And I'm thinking, that who I can't remember what piece it was, but that would have been the highest compliment I could have received on a piece. Because this guy is saying that if he wanted to see quality art, he'd go downtown in the French Quarter and look in the art gallery, and that's where he'd go find his piece. And that's where he found it, in the art gallery, in Worldwide Woodturners, in our art gallery. So don't miss a chance to put a smile on somebody's face. That's what it's about. And you know the beauty is, you didn't pay anybody to do that. You got that as a benefit of a free club. And I love that. That's what makes me feel so good about this. Just do your work and share it. I mean, go out there. Do you see the things you do? I mean, I said my oldest granddaughter asked me if I could make her hairpins, like that instigator Dane Chandler did. Snuggling up to his little cute little veterinarian thing. He made the hairpin. Yeah. And I said, "Sure, sweetheart, when you gonna let your hair grow?" So I'm off the hook for a while. But I gotta make
A
this
couple minutes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. But then she says, she had to get back at me. She says, "At least mine will grow." Ah, well. That's better than when her little sister was very little. She was looking at a picture of me with the hair down to the neck and flopping over the ears post Vietnam days. And she's looking at the picture, looking at me, looking at the picture, and she goes, "Big guy, what's the deal with the hair? What happened to it?" And I said, "Well, honey, what didn't turn gray turned loose." So it's straight out. And that's the one the one that pulled that on me is the one it's Miss Exact. The granddaughter that is everything's got to be to the T. She catches everything, and she doesn't like the work I do in wood. She likes the work I do in plastic and metal. Wood is irregular, and she's not a choice. She's picky, but I hope we're all turning, getting some things out, and we got some good gallery tonight. We got a great demonstration lined up. Who's on the table for tonight, Dane?
Yeah, we got Mr. Walt Wager in line for this evening.
Oh,
Get
wow.
him. We'll get him on here in about 45 minutes. We do
Walt
some
does some
gallery.
Walt does some really good work. He does, and
Yes, he
I've
does.
seen. When I watch the Facebook page for a club or a group, I'm seeing the progress made on some members. It's like looking at their work they did in kindergarten, and now they've moved way up the line. And I used to belong or was with a group that I remember a guy saying about the basics. I said every meeting we should start with a mini demonstration. Every meeting with a mini demonstration covering basics. And this guy, he was kind of the host of the meeting. or became the host of the meeting. He said, no, we got to leave that alone. People don't want to have that all the time. They don't need it all the time. You really got to concentrate on art. And I was always the other way around because not every member can get to that point. Well, now I'm seeing that these guys we didn't leave behind, that we worked with, that we shared ideas with, that we kind of furrowed in and fed and nurtured and came along with, they bloomed. They really did. So it shows that, you never can forget the basics. Sometimes I hear some really, I got to be careful about saying this. I hear some really dumb questions come up. They're not dumb questions. They're questions that started this whole program, this whole thing. They're questions from woodturners who don't know where to get answers, or are afraid of getting answers, or they're afraid of asking the questions. You go to a club and you ask that question, and you got a room full of guys, and it's almost like, let me hold my beer, let me answer that. It's we don't I'm very proud that we don't knock down anybody, make fun of anybody, that every single question asked is answered honestly and fairly. And that's what we started this way, and it does that well for a beginning member, and it does good for a seasoned member. Because if I didn't ask you a question and make you go back into your cellar and look for the answer, because sometimes you rarely go back into the cellar to look for it. Sometimes if you don't do that, you may forget that answer is back there, or that it really needs your answer needs a little fine tuning. Somebody told me the other day, we were talking at the pool, and something about the rain and all, and the guy said, man, I went in this morning and sprayed WD-40 over everything in my shop. And I said, why in the hell did you do that? And he said, well, that's because of the water. And I said, boy, you don't know what kind of high horse I get off on that blue and yellow can. That's not really, I mean, no, don't. Find a different type of protectant. In fact, find a protectant. And we talked about it for a little while, and I saw him again maybe a day or two later, and he says, man, you said about being like a magnet. He said, I went out and took a piece of steel wool and rubbed down that saw, and I couldn't believe what was on there. And it was all underneath that stuff. And I said, yeah, but it was sticky before you got there. And he said, so, man, yeah, it really didn't get there. So his solution was he watched it on TV. He believed what he saw on TV. He didn't talk to somebody that works in a shop, works with their hands, deals with it, understands it, has experienced it, still has all their fingers. And Brenda, no band-aids. See, and it remember, it's not what they can sell you; it's what you need, and what you need is what you really want. So be a little careful about that, and that's why we love to go back on our memories and play with those things. As I'm going to hear a guy say, "Well, I clean mine and I polish it, put a wax on it, and buff it off." They've done that since the beginning of time. And before people were mixing up all this fancy stuff and spraying it on and all this. Yeah, that was kind of the solution. You cleaned it and you put something to protect it. A simple coat of wax, polished it off, and you kept the rust off, and it stayed slick. So you can work on it, and age old, but it involved a little bit of elbow grease and a little bit of work. And sometimes we get lazy and look for the easy way. The easy way is often not the best way. So when we get questions around here, we come up with a myriad of answers, of ideas and thoughts, and what you could do, and things like that. always be careful about which road you choose.
I have to say, dude, just to break in, Captain, once you get done cleaning and polishing, remember that stuff's on your hands. And the next piece of wood you touch is going to have your fingerprints in it.
Well, if you're using exotics and you do that,
You got it.
you got a stain. You'll be wondering where the hell that blotch came from. I mean, that was beautiful African blackwood instead of
Yep.
on the middle of it.
Yep.
Hadoop is extremely adaptive to it. It's hyposcopic, and it'll attract it. And people forget that. My wife puts some kind of, she goops up at night, before she goes to bed. She's not here. It's beauty cream. It's supposed to work. But she puts it on it. I'll go to kiss her, and she, hey, good night. I'll kiss her forehead. I got that taste for an hour, I said, can you give me some warning about that? But then I think, if I touched her and then rubbed my eyes, it'd be there too. And same thing goes with what Jim just said. You can have it here. It'll be on your clothes, in your eyes, your mouth. And some of us have got an extreme sensitive toxic reaction to some things. If you deal with something and all of a sudden you realize the cuticles on your fingers are a little bit redder than normal or a little more tender, it's what you're in, and a simple detergent will remove it. And that would be Dove soap, Dove dishwashing liquid, something like that. Nothing harsh, no anti-inflammatories and all. You are looking to remove a grease product that's causing that. It's often the wood or whatever. And I've had a dermatologist tell me, you want to get oil off? Use detergent. And because I had a bacterial infection or an infection all over me a couple of months ago. And I was talking to my doctor, and she said, Dove soap. I said, I mean, I'm using such and such, from the red bottle and all this from the hospital. No. She said, just bar Dove soap. That's all you need. You need a detergent. You don't do anything else except getting it off. And it's surprising. It works. Maybe it's what grandma used to use, but it works. But thank you, Jim. That's a good idea. And the guys don't realize if you're doing that with it and you're sanding and cleaning on your tools, and you're using a 3-inch sander or whatever to buff off the bed and you polish it all up, guess where all that stuff's going? Right there. Everything that comes off that sander is going right there. So if you don't give it an obstacle, you're breathing it all in. And it's micro. It is. So when you do all that tool cleaning up and sanding the wire, steel wooling and all that, protect your lungs too, a little bit, and your eyes. But just think, it's a simple thing that it's harmful. And we always, I love when we see this on our website. We always want you to be safer coming out of the shop, or safe coming out of the shop as you went going in. It's not an injury zone. It's an enjoyment palace. It's the place to go. We often think some of those things are a hindrance. It's not, and none of us are children. We're all adults or near adults, and we all understand the hazards of what we do. But it can be from the wood we touch to how we touch it and what we do with it. I saw a guy demonstrating something on YouTube or Facebook the other day, and he had a pressure blaster, and he's going to cut through this block wall with the visor up here, not down here. Now, he had the visor on, and they're talking to him. He's blasting through this wall, and I'm thinking, any time now, Joe, flip the thing down. Any time now, I guess he was Joe. I don't need this. But one little thing takes away to one of those two little things you look at through. It's not a happy time. So be careful when you get out there in the shop. Playing around ain't playing around. It's having a good time. 10 after the hour. Remember, SWAT is coming up. It's 29 days away from today. If you're going, we hope to see you there. We're going to commandeer the place again. And I know probably y'all going to be there and we're going to have a good time visiting. I'll be there to give out stickers and introduce people to our club, your club, and recruit some more members and get more folks enjoying themselves in the shop Wednesday. All right. If you got any questions or anything going on tonight, jump in. If you got something to show, go to chat, put in there, have something to show. We want to see your work, want to see your gizmos, your gadgets, your ideas, and your thoughts. Can't go in your head, but I can get pretty close. So I can get that close.
Hypothesize.
Pardon?
I said we can hypothesize what's going on in the head.
Hypothesize. Yes, I didn't think I could do that anymore. But hey, things happen.
Hey.
All right.
Yeah, we hypothesize it. We hypothesize every time we take a piece of wood, put it in our hands, put it on the lathe, and take the tool to it. That's all we're doing is hypothesizing.
I had a lady ask me today.
Scientific experiment.
Yeah, I had a lady ask me today. She said, "You put a block of wood on a lathe like that," and said, "How do you decide what to do to it?" And I said, "Well, unfortunately or fortunately," and I said, "You start cutting on it, and then you think, you know what this will look like, and then you go." Am I right or wrong? Does your mind kind of drive the bus as that wood's shaping up and you get to look at it and feel it?
It depends on what you're doing, because I mean, clearly if you're going in and you're making, you're duplicating banisters or whatever, then you have a plan all the way through. But you're absolutely, sometimes it evolves as the wood talks to you, or as you need a design opportunity, or so on. I mean, that's one of the fun things about this, is that you can adapt and improvise on the fly if you need to. So yeah, sometimes I go in with a plan, sometimes I don't.
Yeah, pick up a block off the floor and you say, "Wonder what this could be." And you put it up and you start to look at how the grain is and how you can hold it and points. And that really is a beauty of this, because a lot of times it's how can you hold it? I had a guy tell me one time, he's very, very good turner. He says, never get fixed on 2 points. And his name wasn't Duxbury, but it could have been Duxbury. Could have been Duxbury, because he was a master of multiple points on a piece all the time. And he could make it graceful. And just offset a little bit. And you'd look at it and say, wait, that kind of, twisted, what happened? And then I would turn a piece and then let nature take its course, and you see a bowl hoop up or elongated, go football shaped or whatever. And my dear wife would say, the board warped, that doesn't really look good. And here I'm thinking, that thing is gorgeous. I really wanted it to do that. And then I wanted to go football shape and have the ears come up, and she said, what? I said, well, that's like when you do a cowboy hat. You're turning a round block and you're hoping it shrinks and swell and jumps and bend the ears over. You pull them down with some tape and some rope and some bungee cords, and make them super thin and hope that they all get all warped up and twisted up, because that's what a good cowboy hat looks like. It doesn't look nice and clean like Roy and Dale wore, and some folks can't get that vision. Wood turners, you get that vision, you can see it. It comes out. You start spinning something and the wood talks to you and says, wait, see this grain, see that little bulge right there? I can't cut that away. That's going to have a grain accent that's such and such, in order to do with it. but I can't get rid of it because, I'm not gonna paint it. I'm not gonna make it black and put it up on a, no. So that I used to love that about going into the shop with just picking up a block, chucking it up, spinning it and getting it knocked the corners off, and then trying to decide what can it morph into. And I, I had people tell me, that's where you need your art. It's not art. It's what you see and what you like. And as long as you keep in the parameters of what you like. I got fussed at one time because the dead piece and the guy said, it doesn't meet phi. I said, it doesn't meet phi. Flip it over, turn it inside out. I don't care. It catches your eye and it looks good. If it catches my eye and looks good, I think it's a darling piece. So speaking of looking good, you got some art pieces showing tonight? You got some gallery coming
Sure,
up?
we do. Let's go to Mr. Slaughter.
Oh, what's that,
Okay, I'm
Dale?
ready. Here's my 4th of July bowl.
Hey, I like that red, white, and blue thing. Man, patriotic.
Yep, that's my patriotic bowl. Made out of maple.
That's a beautiful piece of wood.
Paints were acrylic paints that my wife had gotten at Walmart, so I borrowed some of them. Painted the whole top blue first, and then put dabs of red and white on it, and then move the belt to as fast as my lathe would go, and spun it.
Cool.
Wait,
And it's finished with, the sides are finished with, no, I sprayed the whole thing with lacquer.
nice.
And then this one is colored with Hampshire Sheen intrinsic colors and finished with the OB Shine Juice and Yorkshire Grit.
Cool.
And this one I just played around with some of the intrinsic colors,
That looks good.
dabbed red, white, and blue on it, and then used OB Shine Juice and Yorkshire Grit on it. That's maple again.
That's really pretty.
Well, thank you very much. And then I told you guys a week or so ago that we'd had that bad storm and we had a box elder tree come down. Well, one branch had been dead for a while.
Pretty.
This is the bud vase out of the dead branch.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's something. Like the
I gotta
genie's
know.
bottle. Like the genie's bottle.
Yeah, it didn't quite turn out the shape I wanted, but that was partly because parts were breaking out of it, so I had to adapt.
You see, once it was spinning, you couldn't avoid it, huh?
Yep.
Kind of
And
looks
this
like a
one's
beaker.
actually out of a green branch. So this one's still pretty wet.
Still got some sparks, some red in there. Look at it. Whoa!
Yeah, it's
Yep.
pretty.
Send that to
Pretty
me. I got a big flaw in it. I can paint it for you. Send it over here.
No. Won't that get darker? Is there anything he could do to keep that color longer?
Put it in a dark
Yeah.
room.
Yeah, it does fade. It does fade. It's if you use UV protectant spray, that has UV protection in it, that will help.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can also airbrush some red into the wood.
I died.
Yeah.
I add dye to the reds on mine.
So that's everything I got to show right now. I got a green bowl on the lathe right now that I've just got the outside turned. I haven't started to hollow it yet.
I like those pieces. Really do.
Yeah, and
It's fun
the
fun wood to turn.
Yeah, and I've got a whole bunch of that wood, and when I cut it up to the lengths that I can use on my small lathe, I sealed it all with Tight Bond 3 wood glue because that's what I had to seal it with.
It'll work. It'll work. And you can turn that paper thin. That's the beauty of that wood.
Yeah, and I think this first bowl, I am gonna turn it as thin as I'm comfortable turning and let it do its thing.
There you go.
Let nature add some artwork all her own, eh?
And it'll walk
Yeah.
around. It'll look like it's gonna walk off the table.
All right. Very good there, Dale. Let's
Well, thank you.
let's go to Brenda, and then after Brenda, Matt, you pick it up.
Gotcha.
I went out
Brenda.
today and finished.
Band-Aid check.
No band-aids.
All right.
Yeah. I've been turning for 2 days. And I made him a little koozie.
Yeah, bring it close. Bring it nice and close. There you go.
Is that ash, Brenda?
That's pretty.
Oh, that is a 4x4 post.
There you go. Pine. Okay, cool.
Treated pine.
How easy does the bottle come out?
Like a glove.
There you go. There you go.
Whoa.
Goes in, out, turns upside down. Ain't gonna come out. I made this for my brother. He asked me to make one. He goes to the VFW and that's all they sell is bottles. So
Nice.
got another
Are you
one.
are you gonna engrave it?
No, not this one.
So the second one you make for him, engrave it, but the engraving, put one for the road.
One for the road. Okay.
Because that's what we always say sitting at the VFW bar. Just one for the road. And head
Okay.
out.
Keep that in mind.
That's pretty, Brenda.
The other one that's sitting in the car. It's got tongue oil on it. It's cooking. So this has
Nice.
got 4 coats of tongue oil on it. That has been baking in the car.
Nice.
Tell you what, I put this in the car with the was still on the chuck. I pulled
Truck
that.
got hot.
Oh my God. I had to go get a pot holder to get this
Uh-huh.
out of the car.
Yep. Yep. You only do that once.
Yeah. I ain't finished the bottom of it yet, but I did sand it off. Nice and
Nice.
He's gonna like that. He's gonna like that. That's pretty.
yeah.
Yeah, very, very nice. Yep.
He's gonna like that a lot.
Yeah.
Great job, Brenda. You'll get some orders too from his mates at the bar.
That's what he said, make me some and I'll sell them for you at the VFW.
Yep. Hell yeah.
On them yet because they want them engraved.
Right.
No. How wide is the bottle?
It's a Bud Light
I
bottle.
mean, I'm asking you. I'm sure you took numbers.
I did not measure it. I did use my calipers and measure this and then
You look like, well, let's see the inside. That inside looks different.
the inside has a koozie in it. I'd gotten when I worked at Honda, the Anna engine plant. It's glued inside that way it would absorb the moisture. And it's on the
That's a
bottom.
great idea.
Yeah,
That
great
is.
idea.
Yeah.
She was keeping that secret from us.
Yeah.
See that? Al found out a secret.
I'm glad you asked, Al.
So
Wow, that's really nice. That's really nice, bro. That's a lot. That's a lot of work you did. That's
It is.
pretty.
I wonder if all the brands are the same size, that close.
so
Are they?
yeah,
I'll be.
pretty
That's
much.
that's why the koozies are all the same size, they fit all the bottles.
Right.
They're pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah. He drinks Bud Light. I got the bottle from him. So
We
when
weren't gonna say it.
I have to get me a bottle because I don't know what size they are. So I
Nice
went
work, Brenda.
again and he said,
Good job, Brenda.
I'm with you.
Pretty. That's pretty.
Very nice, Brenda.
Yep. The other one is made of mesquite, which was out of a tree limb that Dane brought me, but it don't seem to have any color in it. So we'll see it next week though.
There you go.
Cool.
That's what I got.
All right, well, next up is Al.
Oh, my. Let's see, okay, talk about trying to get things that have nature do what they can do. My Gomer Powell hat. I saw
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Was that?
That's what it looks like, a Gomer Pyle hat.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing was a mistake. I said, you know what? I've never seen anyone turn a hat and leave the bark on. I'm going to do that. So I forget what it was, but the bark was like 3/4 of an inch thick. And all of a sudden, I'm like turning, and well, you know what? The bark doesn't hold a tenant. So all of a sudden, instead of making something 3 or 4 inches, which would have been better, that's what made it so thin. And then it warped, and well, there you go. I mean,
Does it fit you, Al? That's what I wanted to see.
That's it. That's it. That'll be his poster.
That's cool.
Okay,
Very
then,
good,
I mean,
Al. Very
again,
nice.
you guys, know I've been trying to work this thing. Now, you guys are talking about again, when you put the wood on, what does it do? What's it turn into? Then we try to actually do something in our mind on the lathe, and you guys know that I've been playing around with this friggin' thing for 2 months trying to get it to bend.
Right?
And,
And
I
not break.
took it out of the water just last night, and it's still wet. So I mean, there isn't any finish. Before I started, it was sanded to 400, and I had it hollowed out really well. And I've had you saw I had the thing jammed in here, and I had a wedge in here. Obviously, I'm not bending it right because the picture that I saw was these were like 90 degrees, but I know there's another way that I could get some kind of tension to keep pulling these apart. I just haven't figured it out yet.
Ropes.
You should try making one out of side grain.
What I was thinking about is just getting a small bungee cord and bungee cord, and then I had that ball in the middle here.
Yeah.
And if I had the bungee cord together, maybe that might pull it, a little bit more with more tension at each time. I'm not sure yet, but it's been in the water for 2 months now. I've been talking about this. I took it out last night just to see what it's going to look like, but I might put it back in the water. I mean, it's at the same point. If I could figure out another way to do it, and I might think about putting the bungee cords. If there's anyone else that has a better idea, believe me, I'm all ears. And a few months ago, Terry.
What about vinegar?
What about vinegar?
Doesn't vinegar make wood rubbery?
I don't know
that.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to soak it in the vinegar, white vinegar.
Yeah.
I have gallons of that's what I use it for weeding. I use vinegars. Yeah, I have it. Okay, so soak it in vinegar and keep it in the vinegar and put the bungee cords on it, or put it in vinegar for like a day or two and do something by hand. What do you mean? Makes it rubbery.
Well, have you ever seen, have you ever taken a piece of wood and made it into an arrow, and then you soak it in vinegar, and then you squeeze the head of the arrow while it's wet, and it will flatten, and then you can slide the arrow through a bottle if you drill through like a Coke bottle. So what I was thinking is you could take that same principle and apply it to that wood, and maybe it would stretch a little bit, because
it's only connected right there and right there, which they're not close, but there's only 2 little spots that's connected. So that's the only spots that and right there is the only other connection. So I'm talking about just a little piece of wood. You really think that might bend that, huh?
it might. I would do hot vinegar.
Al, what kind of wood is that?
It was Bradford pear.
Why don't you try boiling water? Soak it in boiling water for.
Yeah, I'm gonna try both of these. I'm gonna try both of these. Yeah, that's I mean,
Boiling water with vinegar.
yeah, no, maybe that's what I'll do. My wife will yell about the smell, I'm sure, but anyway, yeah, after 2 months of just waiting, I'm gonna, and when I started, it wasn't wet. It wasn't wet. Um, a few months ago, or no, even longer than that, Terry, fella down in Texas, he was starting to talk about threading, and he kind of inspired me to try to learn how to do this. This is about the 20th one I've done this week. What I've done this week was just a lot of trying to teach myself stuff. Putting the threads on, putting the threads in. But here, my problem is, okay, you could make a hole and you could thread it, but to size the second part up is where I make the mistake. This one is not too bad. This is after about 15 tries. I can only get it right to there, only about a turn and a half, because the size isn't right. It's not right. You see how it's thinner here and it's thicker in the middle, and getting my size is my problem.
That's
Maybe
a
it came
pipe
from
thread.
China.
That's a pipe thread.
What it is, I got this Carter and Son. I think I forget how many
Yeah, it's
threads
Carter
it
and
is.
Son.
Yeah.
16 or
Pardon?
12. It's either 16 or 12.
It's whatever the more coarse is. That's the one I bought.
12.
16.
Well,
And it's a cool tool. I watch a lot of videos, and the best one is with Alan Batty. The best thing, and I think I said this once before, just get yourself a bunch of wood, lock yourself in a shop for a month, and you'll probably understand how to do it. So in other words, practice.
Those are very intuitive to use compared to the traditional threading tools.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I said, all week I've been just teaching myself stuff, and I'm trying to teach myself carving. Now it's I don't even know what kind of wood it is. It wasn't pretty wood. It wasn't anything. I didn't finish it. I made a chalice, and I had the rest of the block here. And I said, I'm going to start trying to learn how to carve. Can you see? It's all one piece. It's all one piece, and it goes around and it goes around.
You did a good job of carving.
That's very creative, Al.
It's very freestyle.
You see in the middle there, and it doesn't look like much. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it again. But again, now what I've been thinking about is, okay, now I had a block of wood, and I had like an idea. So I drilled a hole here. I think I drilled 2 holes here, and you just keep playing and keep playing, but
Remember
Oh.
how you did it. Remember how you did it so you can make a matching pair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That looks
that's
really
right.
pretty.
Yeah,
But,
somebody like Michelangelo was asked how he does his stone carvings. He says, "Well, I just take away all the bits of wood that aren't what I want." So
Yeah.
that's exactly it.
yeah,
Well, stone,
yeah.
he said.
But yeah, I got a kind of kick out of it. I'm gonna do it again and again and again. I mean, I see all, like Ruby, you're like out of this world, all the artistic things that you have done. But I'm gonna learn.
Very good,
Very
Al.
cool.
All right, guys.
You don't learn by not doing.
Everybody have a good night.
All right, thank you,
Thanks, you
Al.
too.
Good
We
night.
got a lot of folks. We got a lot of folks on the list, and next up is Tom, who is at Walt Wager's place. He's got to unmute himself.
You muted, Tom.
Okay.
There we go. Hope the audio is off.
Something's wrong with the audio.
Oh, wait a second. It should be all right.
Sound like an echo or something.
Hear
Who's
you
the
good.
cameraman?
Talk a little louder, maybe.
Not bad.
Kinda like
No.
It's
Not
kind of
really.
like it's kind of muffled and kind of echoey.
It's the mic on his lapel, but I don't think it's active.
Try now.
Sounds like he's talking in a box.
Wait a minute.
You have two mics anywhere?
Hold on. We're looking. No, not two mics on. I don't think.
hear you fine. Just
We
not
can hear you fine, Walt.
maybe shut your mic off and use Walter's.
Is it on a mixer?
That's all right. That's a very pretty piece there, Tom.
It
Really
is.
is.
Can't hear a word
Hey,
he's
you're
saying.
you're totally muted now.
Go ahead.
No.
Yeah, it's still muffled and or silent. Oh no. Everything was working perfect earlier.
Can you hear us? Shake your head, yes or no.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3.
So he can't hear us either?
We heard testing.
All right, they're
Yeah.
troubleshooting on their side. Let them figure it out.
What the heck is now? Now I'm getting input. Try it. Well, maybe it's this. Maybe it's this. Go ahead and try it. Uh, test the mic. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Same problem.
Muffled, but we can hear you, but it's muffled.
You got fresh batteries in the mic?
Is it plugged in all the way?
Yeah. It's not any different than when I called you, Dane.
Right. Oh,
You
shiza.
guys want to move on to the next person?
Yeah, go on to the next person, and what we need is somebody to. I need to talk to somebody who can hold on.
Can he
All
use
right, we're gonna move to the next person, and that's
Okay,
Ruby.
well, let's talk now.
Okay, I think the last time I saw you, I showed you these snails that I was making up for the nursing home. So
Oh,
one
cute.
of their activities was they could paint them and
Testing.
have snail races.
I could hear you that time, Tom.
And on
Okay.
this side, they could paint a number so that they knew which snail was which. Well, I've taken the snails now to the next level so that from this, on the other side, when they're sitting on a desk, now you have a clock.
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
That's fantastic,
Very cool.
Ruby.
That way they can race against time, right?
And just shows you that time can move at a snail's pace.
Oh, that's even better. That's beautiful. That's pretty.
Love it.
That's a great idea.
Okay, that's all I've got.
Thanks, Ruby. Do you want to go back to Walt and Tom?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
All
All right.
Hope you can hear me.
Yes,
This
sir.
was
Better.
a failed attempt, but I like the idea enough to where I'm going to go back. The process was I painted it black first and then came in with a blue color shift painted it, and then cut the flutes. But unfortunately, The jig has got a little bumper that controls your depth, and the paint must not have been fully cured because I got some scratches. So I'm going to come back to it. The second
One of the
piece
thing,
that
one of the
I
things
think
you
is
can
going to be
do,
a
one of the
keeper.
things you can do, Tom, is you can hit it with some lacquer before you go and start doing the cutting, and that helps protect the paint.
Okay. Good idea. I'll give that a shot. That was a piece of maple. This was a piece of ash. And initially I was going to try to airbrush it, and I liked the grain so much, I decided I was just going to keep it as is.
Wow.
Ooh,
Oh yeah, it looks
Very
great.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
I
And if
think
you're
that
going
was
to
a
take up,
good idea, Tom.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're
Mhm.
going to take up fluting, I would suggest buying some stock in a sandpaper company because there's a heck of a lot of hand sanding to do to finish it up. But I'm reasonably pleased with the way this one turned out. That's all I got.
Very nice. Very
Great
Good
nice.
job, Tom.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thanks, Tom. Next
Thank
up
you.
is Charlie.
Yes, sir. A few years ago, my sister's neighbor's house burned down. Nobody was hurt except my sister's apple tree. She kept fighting and doing things to get her apple tree to grow. Finally, she called me the other day and I went and cut it down. And then I took the wood home. The dark stuff is burns from the fire. And I'll tell you, it had a very strange smell when I turned it. It's a flower
Like
vase.
burnt wood.
It's a pretty piece.
That's all I got.
What it smell
Okay,
like? Burnt
thanks.
wood.
Pardon?
What it smell like?
All kinds of chemicals. I mean, it smelled
Huh.
bad. It
Yeah.
was from because there was another apple tree branch coming off right next to it that didn't get burned by the fire. It's on the same tree and it didn't have the smell.
Must have cooked the sugars or something inside.
Yeah, it's real brittle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Very, very good use of the wood.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Next up is Dave.
Well, actually, I have something quite ordinary. I have some cherry bowls.
Beautiful.
that,
I love when you can get the sapwood in there. Those are sure pretty.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one I finished today.
Is those cord?
Very nice.
You might
Yeah.
call that ordinary. I call it beautiful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Nicely done, Dave.
I wish I get some more time out there. I've got,
Ordinary about those.
They're very pretty. I like the one how you had that little OG, I think they call it, easier to pick up.
oh, the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you call it? An OG?
I call it a lip.
Beaded lip.
Yeah.
Just a rim, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Pretty.
Yeah. With a bigger bowl,
wood.
sometimes
Pretty
it makes
wood,
it
but
easier to hold. But yeah, I have probably 20 or 30 of them that I just got out of the kiln.
How much ice cream you reckon that would hold?
One serving.
The whole
One
quart.
serving?
That's right. One serving.
That's what I was thinking, was one serving. Yeah. Yeah.
You make a nice popcorn bowl though.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I have a bunch of I mentioned last fall that my cousin dropped off about 70 feet of cherry, and it's coming out of the kiln now, and I roughed it out. It's been coming out of the kiln, and so I got a ton of them to do, but lots of fun, good stuff.
Yeah.
Love cherry. Love cherry.
Very, yeah, I do too. Good work, Dave.
Thank you.
Next up is Doug.
Okay. I was just looking to see how
how long this piece is. 10 3/4 inches. Just a little plain bowl today. That was a piece of Brazilian pepper. Um, got that in a trade from a fellow I saw on YouTube, and he turns a fair amount of this. He's down in South Florida. But anyway, I ended up trading with him some wood, got this, and this section here we thought was a burl. This was a limb slightly bent, and this was kind of the elbow of the little branch. And we thought this was a burl because it was nice and round and bigger. Once I cut into it, it wasn't. There might be a tiny little bit of burling like right there, but that's it. So just pretty much plain wood, but it came out really nice. I was really pleased with the way it worked. 10 3/4 inches from point to point. So it was a lot of fun. And then yesterday, I decided I was going to do something a little plain. 12 and a half inches is what it turned out. That's red oak. It had some ring shake in it. Couple of bad spots of ring shake, and we were able to turn through that, get rid of it. It had one crack. That's a remnant of the crack there. But I was able to super glue that early, and it never showed any problem whatsoever. Got a nice undercut rim here, fairly deep under there, and it just came out really nice. Everything
That's
worked
beautiful,
out.
man. That's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Very nice. Very nice, Doug.
Doug.
Just kind of plain, but it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Next up is Jim Duxbury.
Okay,
I can, there it
Doug,
is.
I like that toilet paper holder, but it's a little high, isn't it? The one behind you?
Paper towels.
Oh, anyway, this is a bowl from a board. Maple, wangi, and cherry. So that's one
Nice.
piece of wood, I don't know, 8 by 8, with just a strip of cherry and a strip of wangi set into it.
Very nice, Jim.
But it comes out, these are kind of neat. You can only get
That's
square of them, huh?
really neat. It's okay. So what degrees did you start with? Then the next one, then the next one.
They're all the same degree.
Really?
If you know trig, you can do this real easy. You know the width of the board, and you know the width of the cut, and that's a tangent angle. And once you cut that, I have a ringmaster that was made for my shopsmith, but I never could make it work right on the shopsmith, so I remade it to fit on the Powermatic. And man, on the Powermatic, it's a real tool. But anyway, once you cut that one, it's a perfect cut. And the one in the,
What degree did you cut this one?
I have no idea. Probably it's around 33 degrees usually, but they have charts and all kinds of things, and you kind of guess at it. But if you know the two sizes and do a tangent angle, my phone's got a scientific calculator, and it comes out dead on. It's just dead on.
Nice.
Anyway,
that is a beautiful, it's a beautiful piece. But the idea is just, I've made a few since I've met you and I met Billy. I've made a couple. They were Christmas presents, and that's such a great idea.
well, the ringmaster has instead of cutting from one side, it has two cutters, so you can come in from both sides, and that really makes things work. The other thing, I showed this before. This is my offset platter. I call it an ellipse. I just got my wood turning magazine, and usually they do a pretty good job, but they did a really nice job on this time. Came out gorgeous.
Job.
Anyway, that's how to make it and everything. But usually they do a nice job, but they came out really good. I was impressed this time. That's it for me. I have to tell you though, we were talking before about artwork and how things develop. I found over the years there's two kinds of artwork or two kinds of wood turners. Some put a block on a lathe and they have no idea what it's going to turn out. They start turning and a knot falls out or a piece gets caught or something and they make a little different piece. In the last 10 years, when I put a piece of wood on the lathe, I know exactly what's going to come out. And I don't know what happened, but I can make 6 of them and they'll all match. I just don't do freehand anymore. When I put this on the lathe, I knew exactly what it was going to end up. I knew the height and the shape and everything else. I don't do any freehand turning, but it's a total different world. Just my 2 cents.
You're like a machine.
It gets so that, yeah, it's almost a machine. You can make 3 different pieces. In fact, right now I'm making 3 different napkin holders, and you can take any one piece from any of the other ones and put them together in the outfit. There's nothing in the middle. You just make it right or it's gone. That's it. Just my
Well,
goal.
that was pretty right there, Jim.
Thank you.
Pretty.
Thank you, man.
All right. Well, it's that time of the hour. So we are going to get our demo started for this evening. So we got Walt Wager. He's going to be doing a demo for us this evening. We'll assist with Mr. Kenny on the camera. Typical housekeeping. We'll mute everybody. Keep comments during the demo till the end of the demonstration. You can put questions in the chat. Tom and or I will catch the questions and ask when it's appropriate time for Walt to be able to explain what's going on. Otherwise, everything will be answered at the end of the demonstration. So I am going to highlight Mr. Walt. And then I'm going to mute everybody. And Walt, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Muting everybody.
Is the audio working? Is the audio okay now? Are you
Yes.
hearing the audio?
We're hearing the
Okay.
audio, Walt.
All right, good. What I'm going to talk about tonight is marbling on wood, and it's something I've been playing with for a number of years. Tom, can you give me this camera? Marbling on paper has been done for bookends and things like that. And there are a number of different patterns and I mean, infinite number of patterns and things you can do with it with different paints and different colors and different designs. And I'm going to show you that when it's put on wood, it can be pretty dramatic. So these are some of the paper models that I've been making, and we'll do a little bit of paper tonight because paper allows you to see the colors better than you can on wood, and it gives you some advanced notice of what things are going to look like. To start off, I'll show you a couple pieces that are finished. Mostly what I've been doing are platter rims. This is about a 10-inch, well, maybe 9-inch platter. Rim is about 1.5 inches. And the colors on it are, there's a mixture of colors. Actually, this is a double dipped piece, and I can talk about that a little bit later. This is an urn I made. It has 4 panels on it. Each panel is dipped separately. And you get the different colors and patterns from the marbling. This is a smaller piece I've done recently with some stencils. And we'll talk a little bit about stenciling tonight. This is another small piece. There's lots of different patterns that you can create with the marbling. we've done the fish dish demo for you. This is a fish that's been marbled. And Christmas ornaments, marble Christmas ornaments, and put designs on them. So if you're interested in marbling on wood, the thing that I think kept me going with it after working with it for a number of years was the ingredients. What you need for marbling is you need a tray or something to put your marbling fluid in. And the fluid or the media that basically is used is acrylic paint, but you have to float the acrylic paint on something in order to marble. And what was used typically in the early days was carrageenan. Carrageenan is made out of seaweed, and it's a very good marbling solution. The paints float nicely on the carrageenan, but it's made out of seaweed, and it lasts for about 2 weeks and begins to smell like the seashore. So, and I had limited luck with it using some of the acrylic paints. So I was at an art fair one day, and this woman had all these marbled scarves, silk scarves, and they were gorgeous. And I said, well, how do you do that? And she said, well, I float the inks on the solution and dip the silk in there, and it comes out like this. And I said, well, great. What kind of paints do you use? What kind of marbling solution do you use? And she put me on to a company called Pro Chemical and Dye. And I have a handout for this that I'll make available to you. I don't know how exactly I'll do that. I'll talk with Dane about doing that. And it has all the information about the chemicals and where you get them. But for about $15, you can buy a kit. And in that kit, you get everything that you need to start marbling. Let's see, can we get a picture of this down here? Yeah. They give you your paints. And these are acrylic paints that have been specially designed for marbling. You get alum, and I'll talk about alum in a minute. And you get a package of methyl cellulose, which is the medium that we're going to float the paints on. Let's see if I can get this camera. Methyl cellulose, what you float the paints on. And there's enough methyl cellulose in here, it's 50 grams, to make 2 gallons of solution. And it's not expensive. If 50 grams, there's what, 400 grams in a pound. You can get a pound of methyl cellulose for about $12 and have a time of your life. So anyhow, that's what comes in the kit. And I strongly recommend that if anybody's interested in starting or trying marbling, that you start with the kit, because it can be very frustrating to use materials that don't work. And it will save you a lot of time. Now, I've already made up some methyl cellulose. I use a kitty litter container. This is a gallon. So in the kit, you get 2 gallons. I mean, you get enough to make 2 gallons. You need distilled water. You mix it with the methyl cellulose. You can see well, you can't see it. It's kind of syrupy. Yeah, it's kind of syrupy, or it's thick. By the way, methyl cellulose is the main ingredient of KY jelly. I just thought maybe somebody might like to know that.
Yeah.
And you also get directions with the kit. So we have the methyl cellulose, and the first thing that we have to do is to get the bubbles off the top of it. And you can use newspaper, but I found that paper towels work much better. By the way, marbling does not like sawdust. I can tell you that right now. And my shop has sawdust, so we'll talk about what that does later. Well, when you get the paints, they come in these little bottles, and there's enough paint in these little bottles to keep you busy for a long, long time. The pigments settle as they do in any paint, so you have to shake them up real well. And then when you put, the other thing you might want to do is wear gloves. My fingers turn all different kinds of colors. My wife tells me, maybe you should wear your gloves. Well, it wears off in 2 or 3 days. It's not really a big deal. But it's acrylic paint and it loves flesh. It really sticks to flesh better than anything. So I've shaken this red, and I'm going to put a drop in the middle of the container, and you'll see it spread across the surface. Now it can spread fast or slow depending on a lot of different things. One, the density of the methyl cellulose. Two, the temperature of the room, and especially the thickness of the paint. And especially, I mention this because if you're going to use your own paints, and you can use your own acrylic paints, but if you're going to use your own acrylic paints, you're going to have to treat them with surfactant. And the surfactant is nothing more than something that breaks down the surface tension of the paint. So you can use a drop of Dove dish soap if you want to. People who have worked with photography know about photo flow. Photo flow is a surfactant. And I'm going to put 2 drops of surfactant in this little red bottle, and you'll see the difference about the way the paint spreads across the surface. Shake it up real good. So that's the difference between paint that's been conditioned, they call it conditioning the paint, versus paint that hasn't been conditioned. Now, the other thing about putting the paint on the surface is that it has boundaries. In other words, this paint will not mix with the other 2 paints because of the boundary. Even if I take a stick like this and I pull a line through that paint, you can see it form a pattern, but the paints don't mix together. If I put a drop in the middle of a color, I've got 2 drops in there, you'll see that it's spreading because of the surfactant that's in that. So this paint is thinner than the red paint, and it's causing it to push out. If the red paint were thicker, it would keep that green paint in more. But I can put more paint in the middle, and you'll see it forms those boundaries. What happens if paint is not conditioned? I'm going to take a paint here that I know is going to give me a problem, and I'm going to show you how to fix it. what happens if the paint doesn't sit on the surface, I'll put it over here, is that it will spread some and the remainder of it will sink to the bottom of the tray. Now it's going to make a liar out of me. This one is, the other one, this one won't. But you see, it's not spreading out very much. But it's not sinking. That's a good thing. Now, here's a black paint. I believe this one will sink. Yeah. I don't know if you can see the little drop going down the bottom.
Yes.
Right down here on the bottom.
Yeah, you can see it.
I think that other camera did a better job. Anyhow, so this needs surfactant. Now, what happens when it goes to the bottom is really nothing much, except that the paint isn't going to be very useful on the surface in the design. So we'll add some surfactant to it. I'll put 3 drops in here, 4 drops. Shake it up real good.
Tom, can you switch back to the other camera? Perfect.
Okay. And I'm just going to put, now you see with the surfactant, it spreads across the surface of the wood. Now I can take a stick or a comb and come through the paint and make a design. That black is still pretty heavy. It's still sinking to the bottom. And it will not affect what's on the surface. All it will do is later on make the methyl cellulose quite dark. It'll still work exactly like it's working now, but it'd be hard to see your design on the surface. I'm going to take a piece of paper and just let that ink get on there. It's on the paper. I'm going to wash it. I have a tub of water down here. I'm just rinsing it off. And except for the fact that I had a blob, let's see, where are we? Which camera? I had a blob of paint on my fingers. That's the design that I get on the paper. Now, before you dip the paper or wood on the surface, I'm just going to throw this away. You have to treat it with alum. Alum is I'll think of it. It's a slight acid. That's what makes blood coagulate. If you cut yourself and you're shaving and you put an alum stick on it, it'll keep. It's a coagulant, okay, and it combines with the wood in order to stick the paint to the wood so that it won't wash off when you're done. So what I do with alum, with the wood, is I have a little spray bottle, and I don't want to do it over put the number 1 on, and I'll just spray the thing like this with the alum. and then I'll set it aside to dry. And it has to dry because if I put it in there, the paint will stick to the alum. But if the alum isn't combined with the wood and dry, it'll just wash off when I put it in the water to wash off the methyl cellulose. Questions so far? Am I going too fast or?
No, you're doing good. Can you restate the name of the dye or the paint kit that's being used? And then is the gel reusable?
Yes, the gel, the methyl cellulose is not going to deteriorate like the carrageenan. And here's a bottle that I made that I've been using. But you see how dark it gets, and it's getting dark because of the ink that sinks. And so even so, the ink that sinks doesn't bother anything. It just makes it hard to see the pattern on the top. If you know what you're doing and you know what you're looking for, it won't matter much. But I mixed up this fresh batch so that basically you could see what the patterns are without any problem. Can you hold that box up to the camera? Oh yeah, I can hold the box up. All this information's on the handout, and let's see, which camera am I on?
There you
This
go.
one? It's called Pro Chemical and Dye Marbling Starter Kit. And I think they're in Massachusetts. And the whole thing with shipping comes out around $15.
Where can we find that handout?
He's going to get that to me, and I'll get it to the website.
Yeah, I'll send it to Dane, and then he can post it or do what you want with it. It's not on this computer. I'd give it to you right now, but it's not on this computer. It's on a different computer. So to continue now, once I have my paints conditioned, and I think this black paint will be okay. I'm going to clean off the surface. So only the surface paint's going to stick to the wood. And it also gets rid of the bubbles and any residual dust or anything that might be sitting on the surface. Now, every time you mix up a batch of methyl cellulose, you use I use distilled water, but the measures 25 grams isn't a lot, and it's easy to get off a little bit and make it a little bit thicker, a little bit thinner. So you have to go through the process of what's going to float the inks best as you use it, and that's where you get the ink that sinks and creates the problems, the issues later with seeing it. But there's lots of different ways of putting the ink onto the surface and making designs. I like to work out of a little tray. I'm going to move this up a little bit so you can see the tray. And let's see what I got here. Emerald green. Put some green in that bucket. Some yellow in this one. By the way, these paints will last you a long time. It doesn't take a whole lot of ink or paint. And where's my red? And you can mix the colors together in the tray to make a different color. If you wanted a particular orange or something, you mix it before you put it on the methyl cellulose, because it will not mix on the methyl cellulose itself. So I'll make a little orange here. I'll put a couple drops of red in the tray and a couple drops of yellow. That gives me an orange. And one of the ways that I like to put the paint on is I use these little fan brushes. And I don't know. They're very cheap, inexpensive fan brushes. I get them at Costco in a box of a whole bunch of brushes, and I find them quite handy. And you just make splatters on the surface of the water, of the methyl cellulose. Because you're putting on a small amount, it tends to spread out and not be as aggressive as putting a great big drop on. So I'll just set that aside. And I'll put some blue in amongst the. Now I saw there's a guy on, what's it, Instagram? That you saw that? TikTok. TikTok. There's a TikTok video that Tom was showing me today, where a guy is doing marbling on hats and making these fantastic designs. And maybe we can get that link to you too somehow. If you want to see the real artsmanship that people can put into this, as far as artistic designs instead of a broad-based design like this. So I have a platter. This is a maple. Let's see, where am I? This is a maple platter. And move this. That's the one I'm on. Yes. Just move it up a little bit. Well, back out. Okay, that's good.
There we go.
Okay, with maple platter, this one's got a lot of wormholes in it. So I figured, well, I don't know what it's going to look like with the marbling, but we'll go with it. And I'm just going to, I've already put the alum on it and it's dry. So I'm just going to put it down on there and get the platter rim marbled. And pull it up a little bit. There you go. Now, there's a lot of methyl cellulose on there, and I'm going to wash it off. I usually take this out, and there's a sink outside my shop that I can run some water over. And there's the marbling on the rim.
Wow.
Now, if that doesn't suit you, one of the nice things about it is you can marble over top of that. And I'll talk about that in a minute. I'll show you some other things first. But that paint is on that wood. And the only way you're going to get it off is to sand it off or to turn it off. It's not gonna come off.
So that alum makes it almost dry, instantaneous.
It's not dry. It's actually becomes part of the cellulose in the wood. I mean, it actually is trapped in the cellulose in the wood. So it's like a mordant. It cements it into that wood.
Right.
Now, some woods are slightly acidic, and if I didn't put alum on it, and I have a sample of that around here somewhere. What did I do with it? Well, we'll come across it. But oh, here. This is an end grain piece, and I put alum on this piece, no alum here. Then I put milk paint on this side here with alum and no alum. I mean, alum and no alum. And what you can see, well, maybe you can't see it real well, but the part with the alum holds the dye better than the part without the alum. Now, this is not a very typical example because this is end grain. and paint will stick to the end grain far better than side grain anyhow. So if I did this with side grain, it'll be much, and I'm going to do it side grain, it'll be much more obvious what the alum does. Okay, here I have a platter that has, this is the natural wood. This is bleached. This is sycamore. This is natural sycamore. This is bleached sycamore, and this is milk paint. And I'll create a design and we'll put it on there. You'll see how the color of the wood also affects the brightness of the design.
Walt, when you wash it off, do you use tap water or distilled water?
It's tap water. Yeah, it's just a 5-gallon bucket down here by my feet
Okay.
that I'm rinsing it in. No, as I say, actually what I usually do is take it outside and I run it under the faucet. So I'm gonna skim this off again. Start over. Now this might not suit Mr. Duxbury because it's not anything that he's going to be able to replicate exactly. Well, maybe he can. He's an engineer. He can probably figure it out. Just kidding.
Challenge would be accepted.
All right. So I'm going to put a little different type of design on here now. It's another technique, basically. And this is the one that's done so well in the TikTok video that Tom's going to find where he can get it. But the technique is to take the paint and put it on the surface and then go with another, I'm just using a skewer here, using another skewer to put the paint in the center like this. And you build a bullseye. And you can see how little paint it really takes. And I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put some of this green in the middle. This should spread it out a little bit. I'm going to put some green around the edge. Now the ink's only going to stick where the paint is. And what I mean by that is the methylcellulose around these edges has no paint in it. So if you dip the piece in here and it doesn't hit paint, it's going to be wood. It's just going to be, there's not going to be any evidence of paint at all. And if you're doing a platter rim, you got to think, well, where's the rim? The rim's not in the center. The rim's out here. I'm going to just cheat a little bit here and go ahead and put some of this red out here. This is great fun, by the way.
Looks
And
like
if
it.
you get hooked on it, you'll want more colors. And they sell all kinds of colors. They sell mahogany and they sell teal and plum. Some of my favorite colors are mahogany, teal, and plum. This is what comes with the kit. So that's what I'm sticking with tonight. All right.
This is
If I
just,
want
this
to
is
dip,
just,
if I want to dip this again, I have to coat it. I have to put more
Alum.
Walt, you got muted somehow.
now. Can you hear me now?
We got you now.
yes.
Can you? Okay. What I'm saying is, if I want to dip this again, I have to put alum on it and I have to let it dry. And I'm not, if I'm in a hurry, I'm going to come out to my heat gun. You turn on the main. You notice that the pattern on the surface of the methyl cellulose really isn't moving. The reason the alum has to be dry is it's a solution. And if you put it if you put it into water while it's wet, I mean if it hasn't bonded with the wood underneath, if you put it in the water to wash it off when it's wet, the ink will wash off right with it. I'm probably rushing this process a little bit, but we'll try it and see what happens. So you see the pattern, and you see what I'm putting it on. I'm putting on top of that. I'm rinsing it off. And now that's my rim pattern. So you see, it's a creative process. If you don't like the colors, you can take it back to the lathe and cut them off.
Wow. Look at that.
All right, so we'll move on to the next stage here, the next demonstration. How much time have I got? Okay,
You got plenty
got a
of
little bit of
time.
time. All right.
Plenty.
Oops. Well, I put this on, by the way, with hot glue on the bottom. And you can see that when wood gets wet, it comes off a hot glue. So just keep in mind that I'll set this aside to dry.
Walt, what would you do if you had areas you didn't want colored? Would you mask it off with tape?
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Okay.
I anticipated that question, so we'll get to it. So let me clean this off one more time.
Okay.
Well, it won't be the last time either.
And Ron, we will wait for the your question to be answered as well, because that'll be answered later on as well.
Well, I just want to show you how it's masking. You have to mask it off. If you don't want the color there, there's many ways to mask it off. And you can use tape. You can use a masking solution that you buy at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or any Dick Blick. basically just keeping the water and the ink from getting to the wood. Let me dry my hands off here so I don't contaminate everything. All right, so I'm going to go back to putting some patterns on here, or putting some ink on here. And I'm going to do it a little differently this time. I'm going to put a base layer across the whole thing. So I have a base color. I'm going to use yellow. And I'm not a watercolor artist or an oil artist, so I don't know. There's a certain procedure of going from light to dark or dark to light in order to get certain effects. But what this does is it confines it, since the surface tension is around all around the outside here, it confines the spreading of the inks inside some. And you're going to find all kinds of new ideas if you play with this. I'm working with a rim, so I'm going to keep it around the outside. Where's my green? Now, so the red, white, and blue dish or bowl that somebody made in red, white, and blue dye. The only problem is there is no white. White is the color that you get from the base that you're dipping. So if you want to try white, and I've tried this, you can get acrylic paint and thin it down and float it on there. And it does create quite a stunning contrast when it's on the black and on the wood. Okay. One more thing, and I don't see what this is something called a comb. And it's nothing more than something that you can run through the inks, and it has a spacing on it so that when you do it on a pattern, you'll get an even kind of design on the whole thing. Now, if you look at the instructions, one of the biggest problems people have is ink sinking to the bottom. And what their solution is either you need to add more surfactant or you need to thin the methyl cellulose. You say, well, thin the methyl cellulose, why would that? Well, I don't know. But the answer is the methyl cellulose can be too thick, and it does not help it to have it too thick. And why, I don't know. Okay, where did my thing go? So we're going to do this just to look at the difference in the colors on the surface of this wood. I'm just going to dip it in there like that. And I'm going to rinse it off. And I know the methyl cellulose is thicker than normal because I've done this so many times that when I made this, I thought, well, maybe I should add more distilled water. But I thought, no, keep it. Stay with the rules and see what happens. Okay, so what we have is the original sycamore wood here. The ink over milk paint here, and the ink over the bleached wood here. You see the difference?
Yep.
It's not that it's good or bad. It's just that they are different. And if you want a really bright color, red or yellow, the whiter the wood is, the brighter the colors. Now we think about the silk artists, they're dealing with white silk. And so their colors are going to be really true and really bright. You're dealing with wood. Wood has a color. And that color affects any color you put on top of it. So one of the solutions, like this piece here, this is bleached camphor. So I took camphor and I wood bleached it in order to make it lighter so that the colors would be brighter on the surface. I've done it on cherry also, and it works well on cherry also.
I'm sorry, could you
questions
show
on
us
that
which
so
one?
far?
Yeah, could you show us which, again, is the wood, the milk paint, and the bleach, please?
This is the milk paint. This is the whitest. The colors are the brightest. This is the bleached. The colors are bright, but they're not as bright as the milk paint. This is the wood, and the wood is not as bright. The sycamore that's not bleached, that is not as bright as a sycamore that is bleached. Can you see that?
Thank you. Yes, thank
Yes.
Does
you.
it show up? Does it show
Yeah,
up
it's
well
showing.
enough?
Shows
Okay.
great on
So
my,
there-
on my phone.
So there's another question.
Yes, go ahead.
There's another question in chat. If you allowed it to dry without rinsing, what happens?
Well, you have the methyl cellulose on the surface, which would affect your finishing later on, because you're going to put a finish over top of it. Like a lacquer or a varnish or a wax or something like that, and you're going to have a layer of methyl cellulose on top of that. It's likely to flake. Not going to give you an even finish. So you do want to get the methyl cellulose off of there. It's not dangerous. It's nothing that it would be harmful in any way. I haven't tried it. I mean, you could try it and see what happens. And that's part of my thing tonight, is that you have to try different things, because this is not, in my opinion, there's a lot of science to it. But when you go to use it and you're putting it on something like wood and you're in your own creation, there's also a lot of experimentation. And you'll come up with something that I hadn't thought of, perhaps, and you can give me some advice as to how to do it better, or what looks good for you.
Hey, Walter.
So
Walter,
yes.
on your vase, did you tape that off? Did you tape off what's not colored?
Yes.
On that
Well,
vase?
yes, I'll talk about that in a second. Let me put this down and
Hey, what?
Hey, can we
Yes.
stop interrupting Walt while he's doing his demonstration,
that's
please,
okay.
folks?
No, that's okay. I'm happy to answer that. Yes, I took blue painter's tape and I cut off everything I didn't want to marble, and I marbled one panel at a time, moving it around, washing it off, letting it dry. Next panel, moving it around, letting it dry. And when I got all done, I masked off the frame and airbrushed the black paint frame on there. So it's all masked. And I went to New Zealand and I showed this in New Zealand, and somebody had been working with marbling, and he got all excited about it and everything else. And he called me on the phone from New Zealand after I got home. And he says, "Am I correct in thinking that you had to mask all that off in order to paint that black border?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "I was afraid of that." So, there is some work involved. All right, so let's try something different now. I made a bunch of little bottle stopper tops, and when my suggestion is the platter rims work really well, and this by the way, my container is something you can buy. Can we get down here? This container is $4 at Hobby Lobby, and it's $9 at Michael's, and it's a 12 by 12 scrapbook container. It has a lid, which is very nice because if you're working, I do it at the lid. If I put something down in my shop and turn around 3 times, it disappears. If you're working and you're not going to finish everything in a day, you can just stick this lid on top of here, come back the next day, and everything's going to be great. So we're going to move on and see what I got here. I'm going to have to get some of this out into here. It's for round and you have to be able to dip something down far enough, like on a 3D piece like this. I'm going to have to be able to go all the way through the surface in order to get paint on the bottom. That should make good sense. So I'm going to need a different container. I'm going to need a container like this where I can go all the way down. So I'm going to move this I'm going to move this to a new container. First, I'll skim it off. Probably should have started with a small container. That way it would be a lot easier to move to the large container. So I'll have to remember that for next time. All right, is everybody watching? Here we go. We're going to get all this stuff in here without spilling it, right? I didn't hear any applause.
I'm clapping for you.
Yay, yay.
Okay. That's the one thing about remote demos that I miss from a live audience, I'll tell you. All right. However, you're a great audience. I'm not trying to say anything about that. Pardon? I got it. All right, so put that right up there like that. Now we're going to move the camera up a little bit. The other reason I think this methyl cellulose is thicker than normal is I'm getting many more bubbles. I usually don't get this many bubbles. All right. So we're going to do a couple things here. We're going to do I think I'll start with a bottle stopper. Oh. So I think this will demonstrate better too what I mean by boundaries and around the edge. Got that bubble right there. Bubbles leave holes. If you have a bubble in it, of course, the paint isn't going to be there, and so you'll get a spot on your wood. not a big problem because you can take a little paintbrush and take a little paint and spot it out. We're going to do one of these bullseye things here. We use Christmas colors. And you can see how the blue is not moving very quickly because it's being constrained by the space that's being taken up on the surface by the green and the red. Now, if I put yellow in there, which has been thinned out quite a bit. Whoops. What was that? Something in a shop fell. No big deal. I'll put one thing of black in the middle there. Why did I do that? I don't know. Now, again, if you're an artist and you want to make a heart or something like that, you can do that. If you want to make a flower, you can make a flower. You can continue to mess with it as much as you want. But if I'm going to take a bottle stopper, I have a 3/8 inch dowel rod I'm sticking the bottle stopper on because that's the hole that's in it for the bottle stopper. Whoops, where are we here? Can you see that? I'm going to come right down in the middle. And the paint comes around the piece.
Wow.
And that's what it's going to look like. And I'll just set that aside to dry. And someone else was talking earlier about getting fingerprints and things on the wood and the finish. And this is very susceptible to something like that because if you have an oily spot or a super glue spot, or you fill something in on the rim that the alum can't get to the wood, it's very likely that the paint won't stick on that spot. Okay, now I'm going to answer the question about masking, I hope. I'm going to take a stencil. Oops, so much for that. And are you familiar with Chromacraft? Chromacraft is a company that sells stencils. This package is blank, but they also sell stencils like dolphins and butterflies and birds and things like that. I have a little box here. I take my glove off to do this. take the stencil. This is a dolphin with a little box. There has been there's alum on the box, and I'm putting the stencil on the box. And just for balance, because this might come out, I'll put a second stencil on the other side. This is adhesive stencil. The stenciling material is adhesive. It's a light, what they call a light tack adhesive. I'm going to put one, I'll make this one frolic, put this one up this way. Can you reuse the stencils? You can reuse the stencils, yes, as long as, remember, the enemy of adhesives is dust. So as you use these things, if they get dusty, or you put them back on, you can put them back on the plastic, like I put this one back on the plastic that it came on, and I can use these again. I want to keep them as clean as possible when I do that. When I get done with these, if they're still in good shape, I can just stick them on the back of the mask here, and I can use them again. I've used stencils many times. So now I'm going to put my ink on the, or my paints on the surface here. Again, the ink sticks to your hands better than almost anything. I'm going to use blue and green. Let green be my background color. Blue be my pattern color. And again, it's not going to spread out a whole lot because of the green. As a matter of fact, it's sinking a lot here. Did I pull the wrong one? No, that's not. So I'm going to take this now and just make some sort of a pattern on it for the box, a C pattern. That's my C that the porpoises are frolicking in. And in this case, I don't have I'm just going to hold it and dip it down to the pattern line. And wash it off. I could take my stencils off. If the ink if it got under the stencil, it's not going to be nice and clean. If I got it on there, well, it will be all right. That stencil does not want to come off. There's my box with my dolphin. And there's lots of things I could do beyond this. Um, I could paint the dolphin. I could uh, uh, treat it with alum and dip it again in a different color, which would make the dolphin a different color from the background. Uh, there's just no end to the different kinds of treatments that you can do for these things. Well, I think, well, I've got lots of other things here we can dip. We can, just mess around a little bit. But I think that basically I've gone through all the different permutations of things that you might want to try if you're starting out at this. Um, it's not expensive. It's not hard to do, and it really is, in my opinion, a lot of fun.
Excellent demo. So Walt, one of the questions was on the one of the plates that you did, the center
Yeah.
mass,
Yeah.
you were just able to wipe
Yeah.
the residual paint and stuff out. Was that because there was no alum treated on the center surface?
On this is the one you're talking about?
No, one of the demo pieces that you did. All you had to do was just wipe out the center there, and there was nothing left but the wood. Is that because there was no alum
Oh,
to make the paint bond?
this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay. This was already coated with, this was one that I had done earlier that I put on the lathe and cut off and redid the bottom. But this is finished, yeah. So the paint's not going to I'm first of all, I only put the alum on the rim. But the second thing is this already had a coat of lacquer or
Okay. So you already
varnish
had
on
it.
it. Yeah, so all I
Okay.
had to do is wipe it off. So you could
Okay.
do it.
Right
You
on.
could do that. Although it's not as clean. If I'm going to finish this, what I'm going to do is resand the middle. And I'm not actually going to finish this because it's got the 3 different things on it that I just did it for demo. What I would do is
Right.
I'd just put it on the lathe, clean it off and redip it.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Then
Now on
yeah,
this
yeah.
one, on this one, okay, there's the back, there's the front. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on a lathe, cut out the bottom, sand it, leave the rim alone, and then turn it around and finish off the bottom.
Okay.
And I use just the same way I did the fish platter demo for you. I use I put this flat against a jam piece, and then put the tailstock up, and then cut it away where I don't want the wood, where I want to finish it off. So today's demo really was more about the marbling than the turning, but
Right. Right.
uh,
Okay.
there's many different ways to do this with regard to finishing it off.
Oh, I
And
bet. And what's the what do you find is the best finish to go over that lacquer or any oil or?
my favorite finish is Krylon matte spray. And you may say, well, that's funny that you would use matte spray because most of my stuff is shiny, somewhat shiny. I don't like it totally mirror shine, but I do like a smooth surface. Let's see if I can hold it up like that. And what I do is I put maybe 3 or 4 coats of matte lacquer on it. I buff it with the Beal system, and you're not going to buff the paint off. Don't worry about it. You got 3 or 4 coats of lacquer over top of it. And then I use a wax, a micro uh, Renaissance wax,
Okay.
and that's it.
Then on
And the
your
bottom, pardon?
for the paints when you're dropping them into the jelly mixture.
But don't call it,
Does the
call it
thickness
yeah, read the methyl
your
cellulose, right?
your methyl, yes. So
Yeah.
does the thickness of the paint determine the spread of the paint floating out into the
The
mixture?
thickness, yes, that's where the artistry comes in terms of, or I should say, the science comes in that the thickness of the media, the thickness of the paint, the amount of surface area that's available for the paint to spread in, the paint that's already there that confines the other paint, they all work together. And I think this methyl cellulose is a little thick from my experience. It's a little thick, and I should probably add some more distilled water to it. Now, as I was saying, this is looking pretty bad now, right? It's not as nice and clear as it was before, but it still works the same exact way. Once that paint is a part of the methyl cellulose, it will not stick to the wood. So even though all that stuff is down there, if I take, and I'll do it just to show you, here's a bottle stopper. There's no paint on the surface. If I stick that down in there and bring it back out, there's no paint on the surface of the
How about
piece.
that?
And it won't stain it either. It's because the methyl cellulose is containing all that. It's grabbing and containing all that
Right.
pigment.
Huh. Interesting. And then could you strain that paint out? Run it through a
No,
filter?
you can't. You can't. I've tried putting it through a paint strainer, and all you're doing is basically mixing it together a little bit more than it was before.
Okay.
It doesn't. It's the paint. The pigment is so fine. When you get done and you look at this and you say, "Wow, that's not very it's not very dark. It's not really very fine." When you put the lacquer on that, when it dries, it'll be dull, and it won't look as bright and shiny as this does. But when you put that lacquer on it and pull it and put a little bit of finish over the top of that reflects light, you're gonna pop those colors right out. It's until you do it, it's just hard to understand how that happens.
Right. Yeah, I bet it's very interesting. And about how deep does the paint go into the wood grain? The topical, pretty much.
It's on the surface. It does grab into the top surface of the wood, much like a stain would, but you can sand it off.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't penetrate. It's not an alcohol stain. It's acrylic paint. So it stays more on the surface because of the alum grabbing the paint and just embedding it in the fibers. But you can sand it off if you want to. You can if you were a real rough buffer and you didn't put any lacquer on that, it would take you a while, but you could probably buff it off with some AAA or something like that. It would never all come off until you sand it or cut it off with a gouge or something.
Right.
Or
And we have a non-wood question here from one of the members. They're wanting to know, with regards to hydro dipping, would there be any advantage to using the methyl cellulose and alum on plastic or metal? Did you know anything about that?
Hydro dipping is a different process. Hydro dipping, you're working with water as your base, but what your surface is a piece of printed plastic or a printed base, like a decal paper. And so you print that decal paper, you put it on the water, and there's something called an activator. And you spray that activator on there, and it releases the paint from the decal paper, and then you dip. So it's a different process. It requires different chemicals It requires the chemicals have acetone or something in them that I tried it. I didn't like it, and it's
Right.
more expensive. So being as cheap as I am, this is my choice.
Can
But
I
I did
interrupt
try
that for
hydro.
just a second?
Sure.
You could.
Sorry. I've seen hydro dipping done with just paint, not with the printed and activator and all that stuff. But it's usually done with spray paint. And I've tried it out a little bit and on plastic stuff, just playing around, and the paint stayed really sticky afterwards.
Yes, because the paint is an oil-based paint. It's an enamel.
Okay.
And so you're dealing. That's why it floats on the water, because it's an oil. So it is sticky. It's messy. The paints will interact with each other, on the surface. Yeah, I've messed that too. And there's also a bunch of different kinds of marbling stuff you can get at the hobby stores. I bought some at Michael's, and I brought it home, and what it said is you need to float this on to such and such after treating it. And then I didn't have the such and such, whatever it was. I didn't read the bottle in the store. And I went back, well, we don't carry that. Well, why do you carry the paint if you don't have the such and such that has to go with it? Gee, what do cashiers know, right?
Okay,
So
thanks.
yeah, there's all kinds of stuff out there. To me, for woodworkers, and from what I've seen, this is the best way to start. Now, there are all kinds of paints too that are golden art paints, and I've tried those, and I have a whole set of golden paints. And golden paints are so thin, they spread across the surface like gangbusters. They just go right across the surface. And that can work for you or it can work against you. But that wasn't part of tonight's demonstration.
Right.
So this is my recommendation for people that want to get started and have some success at this, and not spend a ton of money. Well, thanks for
Outstanding demo, Walt.
you all having me, and I hope you have a good time with it.
Sure, great.
I'll send the handout to Dane, and he can get it wherever you can get it from. Is that okay?
Yep, that'll work.
Dane's
Get them to me, and then we'll get them on the webpage.
Okay, great.
Thank you again, sir.
Thank you very much.
care.
It was great.
So we did have one request from one of the members that came in late. So he caught it when you were finishing up. He wanted to know if you'd be able to do it all over again. No,
In
he
2
can
or
catch it
3
on the
days, there'll be a
rerun.
rewind.
He'll catch it on the rewind. All right. Once again, thank you, Walt. Anybody else have any questions before we let Walt go?
Have a blessed night, right, Walt?
I loved
Great
it.
job. Great job.
Loved it.
All right. Take a bow, sir.
Thanks, Walt. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm
All
gonna
right.
try.
Let's go back
It's
to
great,
Captain
man.
Eddie and see what his thoughts were on this
You know
demo.
what? That was super enjoyable. That was
Yeah, I don't know about you. I got a page full of notes, and there's more to come because he's going to give us more information for our website. And you can always see this on a rewind for the members that came in late. Everything we do on Worldwide Woodturners, everything on our meetings are recorded and played back on our website, available to you all the time. That's uncommon for most clubs. We make all this information available for our members. That's why we're here. This was awesome. I had absolutely no idea what was involved in this. Then I didn't understand how simple it was. Not that it was so simple, there is a lot of technology going into it, and I really appreciate Walt's work and explaining it and going through it. And I was the same way when he had that piece that didn't get anything in the center. I'm thinking, I had to pull that off, you know. And then he showed another piece where he's going to go back and cut the center out and refinish it, because I was thinking that's how you had to do. And then, you know, you play with this. This is a thought invoking program because it'll show you the practical and then the eccentric use of these materials. Great. You only can get that here, folks. Only here. And if you want to rewind on it, that's where it comes from. We've got gallery still coming along. We've got to remind you that if you got photographs of your work, like this awesome work by Walt, please send it to our editor at worldwidewoodturners.org. And that's the email address. Send your photographs. And we want to add them into our newsletter. We have a new edition coming on next week. Next Wednesday, we'll be talking more about great photographs, great artwork, great information. You see, that's what happens. Information gets right here and then goes right there. And it's all dependent upon you on membership. And really good. I really like this piece. And it makes you, I like what Walt said, you know, oh, I wear my gloves. It goes away in a couple of days. Yeah. I've had to explain to doctors that the blue and red fingers weren't a disease. You know, what are you doing that you have blue fingers on this hand and red fingers on that hand, and also making mistakes in the dyes? So, you know, wear your protective gear or suffer for it. Like, you know, Walt's wife says, put your gloves on. All right. You have something to show on gallery tonight? Go to chat, put it in there. We have a gallery master that's watching it, and they'll call you in the order that you go into the chat, and we can fit you in. We want to see your work. We want to talk more about it. Remember, we're going to ask you how you finished it. That's going to be the bottom line. What's the finish? So we want to go back to chat right now. I mean, back to gallery, Dane.
Yeah, Matt, who we got up next?
Next up is Roger Wellham.
Roger, hey.
Do that work?
What you got, Roger?
You got another maple bowl that's got stains in it that was there when I turned it. Of course, it had some cracks in it, so I filled it with some epoxy, but
Very cool.
I like that.
That's a nice piece, Roger.
Love it.
so it's finished with it's got like 4 coats of tung oil and then buffed with carnauba wax on top. So
Cool.
this is out of my neighbor's tree, so it was cut down about 2 months ago. Or this limb was cut off about 2 months ago.
And it was dry already?
It wasn't completely dry, no.
Well, it turns nice like that.
Okay.
Huh? Why dry it?
Yeah.
It's not
Exactly.
perfectly round.
Cut it first, dry it later.
So
And he'll
And
try
like
in
I
the
said,
shop
I like
anyway.
night so
the
that
way
he
the
doesn't
colors
touch
came
you.
into it.
Very nice, Roger.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Next up is Gary Hales.
Oh, we shocked him. Hey, Gary.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that one. I did a little bowl and wound up with a different design. It had some cracks in the top, and I decided to work with it and see what I had, and did a little extra work on the bottom. Need a little more light there, don't I? Yeah. Had some beads
Oh, yeah.
and used a Sorby tool on the bottom and put my little thing in there, put a little bead on it, and some dark rims. And this was so wet when I started it about 4 weeks ago that I took a bath while it was being turned. And then I put it in my dry box for 4 weeks, and then I finished this off this past week.
That is beautiful.
And what's your finish, Gary?
Use tongue oil on this. I'm giving it a try, Dane.
It looks good.
Giving it a try. So I've got 4 coats of tongue oil on it. The bottom still lacks a little bit more, but
feels silky, doesn't it?
That's what I've got for the week.
You put that in the car to dry?
No, we have too much humidity and all here to do that. I have a 2-door commercial refrigerator freezer that I pulled all the refrigeration stuff out because the compressor was busted in it, and replaced it with a 500-watt heater. And I have a dry box in my wood turning shop where I keep exotic wood and this, that, and the other. And then anything I turn green goes in there. I keep the temperature at about 95 and the humidity very low.
What kind of wood was that?
Oh, excuse me. That's a piece of ambrosia maple.
Oh,
that's what I thought that was.
Beautiful.
If I turn it up on the bottom, you can see the ambrosia.
Yeah, now I see it.
More so, and it really ran in together on the sides and all.
That's
beautiful. Some great color and figure.
Absolutely gorgeous wood. Inside, it's almost all dark.
Oh yeah, that looks great.
Very nice piece.
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple more coats, you'll have it.
Yeah, a little water sanding after.
Right.
Got to put one more coat on the bottom, then I'm gonna water sand all of it with 1000 grit, and then put one last coat on it.
There you go.
Perfect.
Sounds like it'll be shiny. Okay, next up is Howard King. See what kind of magic he's brought to us tonight.
Oh, know
Lord.
which one he's going to show.
Oh, Lord,
kept
2
his
Alabama boys in a row on this website. Good Lord,
Roll
y'all are bad
Tide.
off. Y'all are
I'm
bad
just
off.
glad you got me before Howard. I don't want to follow Howard.
Hey, Al, man, I like that hat. Golly.
Way cheaper than the double pan size of Rouse's, smaller portion.
Hot mic.
Win-win.
Got it.
Well, Al, Goober said, hello. You mean y'all are not that old? I remember that.
So what you got for us, Howard?
Okay. Dane, I had posted this on Facebook, and Dane said, you got to show that doing Zoom.
Yep.
And so anyway, it's white oak, and this tree had fell over. We had some high winds, and it fell over. And before I could get to it, the sapwood really started spalting. And so anyway, I soaked the bark edge with thin sag glue to keep it on there and stabilize it. So, and I turned it oval, by the way. So with my oval lathe. But anyway, there's the bottom to it.
That looks great. That's got some pretty markings.
I had cut the point. I had cut the point off because it would have been a good dunce hat.
How'd you turn it oval?
That's the secret. It's a secret.
It's an oval cutter. It's an oval cutter. He used the
oval cutter.
He used the oval gouge.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You know what? No, that's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's got a couple of coats of oil. That's what the finish is, oil finished. So it's not all that shiny. I guess I could put 2 or 3 more, make it real glossy or shiny, but I kind of like it like that, you know.
That works real well. Very nice.
Beautiful.
I've had a consignment to make a bunch of cheese trays. So I've started on it. And so here's one of them that I've got finished. West
Well done.
doesn't have a finish on it yet, but it has that on it. And of course, this is not glued in, but don't you check out this maple? Well, I don't know if you can see it. Maybe it's washed out.
Probably
that
close.
quilted?
If you move closer.
Oh, I can
move
see the
closer,
quilting.
Yep.
I
move
can see the
closer,
quilting on my cell phone.
move-
Can y'all
move
see
closer.
that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that,
Oh, yeah.
is that pretty? Wow.
Wow.
So anyway, the guy brought by just a pile of this stuff, and he's gonna bring me a bunch of these and a bunch of these. So, for the last couple months, all I've done is do jobs for people, and haven't been able to do much of anything. Here's the bottle of it.
Hey,
But
let you buy new tools, right?
right. Anyway, he brought a bunch that was 12 inches by 2.5 inches. And then, so I've been working on those. And then he had a bunch of 16-inch diameter by 2.5, 3 inches. So I'm going to practice on these and then get up to the big ones. So anyway, so
the circular thing, is that stone or what is that? The insert.
oh, it's from made in Taiwan. I guess it's marble looking stuff. I guess it's fake marble, you know.
Okay.
Woodcraft used to carry them.
Yeah.
What do they call that?
I don't know. He brought by this one and he had ordered a bunch more, and I hope they're going to be the same size because I'm doing all the measurements from this one. And it's going to be my luck that the other ones he brings will probably different, you know. But what I did, this is part of the mortise for my chuck. So if they are a little bit different, I can chuck it back up and do whatever. Of course, if they're smaller, I guess I have to get some wood shrinker and, shrink it back in for.
Right. Maybe that vinegar trick would work.
Cold water dip. Cold water dip.
Cold water. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. Or putting boiling water and it'll.
Or you could use coffee grounds and CA.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
but anyway,
just teasing.
But
well,
my main question is, I'm thinking about putting salad bowl finish on this, and he told me just put mineral oil, and mineral oil doesn't really, pop some of this figure out like salad bowl finish. So what y'all suggest?
Let's see. I prefer a salad bowl finish.
That's what I'm leaning to, but but.
The only thing, the salad bowl finish is a permanent finish, but the mineral oil will need to be reapplied. So,
right.
I mean, if that's what he's asking for, then I would suggest do what the customer asked for.
Well, he's going to, give these as gifts. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Just explain to him the salad bowl finish will last longer. Maybe he's just doesn't know.
Well, that's what I told him. And I told him that the mineral oil you had to, years later put more on to keep doing it. So, I'm sure the people he's going to give it to is not going to want to do that. So, probably don't even know what to do with it. So, yeah, salad bowl finish, I think, be the best. Yeah,
that sounds great. Also, the center section, I found you can turn Corian and turn a piece to fit anything you want.
Right.
That's what
I thought it was.
I don't know. It says made in Taiwan, so I guess I don't know.
You could write that.
Looks like Corian.
That's kind of what I thought it might be, but it's pretty heavy. Well, yeah, it could be Corian.
You could write that on the back.
Yeah.
There's also fake marble that they come up with, so it's still a product, but they powder it down and then they kind of squish it all together like almost like a medicine pill. And
I don't know if you see that, but it looks kind of like it's grains that they mash together, a powder on the back. I don't know if you can see that from.
Yeah, that's the rough side. Yes.
Yeah.
Upside, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a method of taking powdered stone and dyeing it and
Mixing it up.
Mixing up using high pressure. They compress it into discs like that.
Yeah, that's probably what that is.
Probably.
Yeah,
It's not very knife friendly. It's not as knife friendly as corian is.
But anyway,
You know what? Governor would say, well, golly.
hey, Dane, is
Yes,
Dane
sir.
still around?
Yeah,
Listen,
I'm here.
I'm not gonna put a finish on this, okay?
Yeah, no finial needed. No finial needed.
All right, that's all.
Right on.
That's all.
Thanks, Howard.
Okay.
Who we got next, Matt?
Well, I think that Mike Morris said that he had something to show, so we're going to go to him next and see. Is that right, Mike? You're muted.
Oh, go that better. I got this here little piece. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. This is cedar. I actually had turned this a couple of years ago, and I just finished putting a lacquer stain on it. So, and then
Pretty thin.
little cherry started out being a flower, but well, you see what it turned out to be. And I still got a sign at the bottom of it, but I cut this in the backyard. And then I made 3 of these different sizes. This is also out of that cherry. And I just took it off the lathe. I got to cut this piece off. But it's a little weed pot. I like turning little weed pots. So, and it's got a lacquer finish on it.
Beautiful.
And then I turned 3 of these, and this is the bigger one. So there's 3 different sizes. I left a little bark on it too. So, but that's what I got.
Nice job.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Next up is Brent, who said he's got something he'd like to show us. It's not necessarily wood turning. What you got, Brent?
So, well, like I said, this is kind of a woodworking project that has kind of wood turning components. So this here is a rubber band gun that I bought back in the late 1980s back in Oklahoma City. And I wanted to rebuild it. So, but I couldn't, spent the next 30 years trying to figure out how to rebuild this little plastic piece. Well, that kind of puzzled me for many, many years. But about 7, 8 years ago, as a rookie wood turner, I discovered index plates. This fit my little jet mini lathe that I was turning on at the time. And I had no idea what the index plate was at the time, but it allowed me to make these little discs here. So I did, I turned a dowel on my little jet mini lathe and then built a table that went over my lathe and made a sled for a router. So it allowed me to cut these itty bitty little dados all along there. And then allowed me to make these little slices, slice a whole bunch of these things. And that allowed me to build these. Took me 30 years to figure out how to build this little big thing. And then that allowed me to build a rubber band gun. So took me 30 years to build this thing, and it shoots rubber bands. So there's hundreds of them. I made bunches and bunches of these things. Gave them to all the kids I knew and such. You know, got lots and lots of kids. Got lots of kids in trouble over the years and such. And then after a while, I figured, why am I making these with just 1 barrel? I could make them with 2 barrels, 3 barrels, and whatnot. And then figured, what's the limit on these? How many barrels can you make with these things? Well, I figured out how many barrels you can make with these things.
Oh my God.
Look at that.
Oh.
There's
Gatling gun.
that.
That
I
is.
totally want one of those. I need one of those.
Wow.
The new
That's
brand of
badass.
Gatling gun.
It take you all day to load it.
Yeah.
That takes.
But it's worth it, Jim. It's worth it.
It takes a day to load at least. But it's got 17 barrels. It was largely an exercise in joinery. This transmission
Utility.
part here is all
Back
Morrison
it, back it,
joinery.
back it,
I'm
back
sorry?
it, back it back up to show us the front. The front. Back it back
Right,
up
the
to
front.
show us the front.
Okay. So there it is and such, you know. So, and
That's
it
great.
took a tripod to I had to build a tripod to hold it and such.
You could make different calibers. That'd be great.
Yeah. But,
Hey, Brent, how does that shoot rubber bands?
well, so you see on this one here, it's a string. It's wrapped around the thing. And you wrap a string around one and put rubber bands over it, and as this pulls the string, it pops rubber band off.
It releases it.
And such. So, but then the back here, it's got this transmission here. For the thing. Each one of these goes through this, and then I got copper tube guides going through all of this, which was a bear to make, getting all these copper tube guides. And I didn't need to do that. That was all entirely for aesthetics. But that really was quite the chore to make that copper tube guides such. And actually it really defeats the function of it such, because it puts a lot of tension on strings such. But over here I got gears to run the whole transmission and such, and it doesn't work real well. I kind of need to rebuild that with some sort of gear reduction thing, because it takes a lot of pressure to pull all that through the copper tubes and whatnot. But
If you ever go to the symposiums, you need to bring that for the instant galleries, just to show everybody.
Well, I'm probably going to make our trip out to Wisconsin, so maybe I could bring that out to Wisconsin. So, but I call this a ludicrous gun. I call this a ludicrous gun, a reference to Spaceballs when I'm there. So, but that's my ludicrous gun.
I love it.
So,
I love it. It's
that's
glorious.
Awesome.
That is.
There's the ludicrous gun. So
Grandson.
actually,
so nuts.
I've only actually ever fired it once because it just takes too much work. So
wow.
So,
a whole lot of work loading it and a whole lot of work unloading it.
No. What you're saying that as you crank that, all those are going to come off just like a machine gun?
yeah, there's basically all of these are rotating, firing. 17 barrels are spinning just like this.
Right. Right. And
yeah,
and in the middle that we're seeing right there, so it spins as no, all the way to the left, all the way to the left of your where your crank is. So as you're spinning that, it's going to knock every one of those off.
So you're shooting 17 bands at a time?
yes, these are all spinning simultaneously. So there's thousands of rubber bands. You get approximately about 100 rubber bands on each barrel here. 1,700 rubber bands flying off of here. It's just a barrage of rubber bands. So
and it's by turning that wheel.
Yeah. Yes.
You have to demonstrate it right now. You have to.
Well, like I say, I built this like 3, 4, 5 years ago, and I've only ever fired it once. So
Oh my
It's a
God.
collecting cost, but
That's great, Brent.
it's
I love
incredibly
That's
it's incredibly
crazy.
stupid, but it was fun to build. So
I'll volunteer to be the target right off the bat.
That was
Well,
stupid fun to build. Isn't that the best ones?
so I've got another one in process that's being built. That's entirely a wood turning project. So you'll see that in a few months probably.
That's
uh,
there isn't any more questions to ask.
like I said,
There's,
incredibly
there's no
stupid,
such
but
thing. There's no such thing as overkill. So I'm with you, man. I
Yeah,
understand exactly
absolutely.
why you built it.
Absolutely. It was fun. So, but not really a wood turning project. Yeah, there's a few pieces and parts, but yeah. Yeah.
That
That's it.
qualifies.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks,
Great
Brent.
stuff.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
All right, Dane, that's the last person on the list for tonight.
Wow,
I can
that's
run
it for
down the shop.
gallery?
Yeah, I can run down the shop and get some of the things I've turned this week, but it'll take
You
me
know
about
what?
5 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Matt. We got
All right, well, why don't you do some
a
time
little
fill
bit of
while I do
time
that?
here. So yeah, how about that? Let's see. So you heard mention made there of going out to Wisconsin for our little get-togethers. We kind of dropped a couple little nuggets about it last week, but we plan on having a worldwide wood turners European flare turning event in a couple years, September of 2026. We had our first macro level meeting in the planning stages Monday night with a group of folks, and things went really, really well. Seems like we're all on the same page on the ideas of what we're wanting to formulate and put forth. So definitely going to be more information to come in the coming meetings and the coming months. And we're hoping for big things. We plan on keeping things small. It's for the group, by the group, literally and physically. We've all come along for this ride. Some of us been here for almost 5 years. Some of us have only been here for a couple months, but we're all going to be involved. We've got some buy-in from at least one person from England that's looks like they're going to be popping over, and he may be dragging a couple other people over with him as well. But it's going to be an interesting event, and like I said, more information to come as we get formulated and set in our ideas of what we're doing. So feel free to generate any buzz, any questions that you have. I can answer to the point that I've got the info to answer. But at the moment,
so
it's
Dan,
a
you're
lot
talking about
about
having a symposium.
It's throw out symposium, throw out hands-on retreat. We're going to do things kind of like how they do it over in Europe. It's going to be totally unique. And once we have the full process of how that's going to work, then I'll be able to divulge that.
Well, Pat, to understand that it's not being put on by a corporation or a firm.
No.
This is being put on by our membership with the use of only our membership. And what you're going to see, folks, is the creation of the minds that have put this together. And all these folks have just come together and said, hey, why not? And we're responding to a why not. And it's a great idea. It's an opportunity. And people, I've had questions, why we're going there? Well, that's the first place we came up with, and it's available and it's in the plan. Are we restricted? No. Is that the only place? No. Is that the only one? No. You got to understand, we're growing. This is the beginning of a great step forward. And to do that, we're going to need your support. It's just about that simple. And the more you get involved, the better it will be. So if you hear somebody say, why can I do such and such? Yes, you can volunteer to be on this. And it's a planning thing, and let's all get together and put our brains on the table and see what comes up with. We've done some remarkable things here. The Worldwide Woodturners have done things over the last 5 years that I was told could never happen because we're not married to the almighty dollar. No, we like wood turning. We like the friendship of it and the compadre and what we do. And you've seen it tonight. We didn't pay for that demonstration. We got a world-class demonstration by Walt Wager. We learned a lot about a technique that we used in almost every shop that's out there and used on many, many projects. And if you're not a wood turner, don't tell me you can't use this idea. I mean, everything from plastic to metal or wood to glass can go into that same program. So Walt just shared you an idea tonight and showed you how to do it and made it simple enough to where, wow, I can do that. And all those details are going to be on our website for you to get to. So that's what this symposium type, and we're going to call it this gathering, this wood turning gathering is going to be about. I'm ecstatic about it. And it's, I'm almost ready to start the countdown phase on it. 758 days. Almost. But
if I could add a little bit, we hope to
careful.
Whoops, we hope
Careful
we
what you're
hope
adding.
to
Careful what
okay,
you're adding.
well, I will be careful. One of the
It's not going to be like Campbell. It's not going to be like Campbell.
I understand. I was going to say that one of the issues that we have had with any gathering of this type is finding an appropriate venue. So you need a place that can take the number of people we want and has power and has shelter in case of storms and that kind of stuff. So that's one of the reasons why we picked this venue, is because it offers all of that. We've been trying to recreate a Campbell's hands-on style retreat, or at least something close to it, in several ways. And that has been the major first stumbling block, is finding the appropriate venue. And now we've got an appropriate venue for at least a good starting point. So that's where we're going with it.
And so to reiterate, what we're doing is totally WWW, and it is going to be a unique experience that has not been experienced anywhere in the United States. So it's not a simp. It's not the traditional hands-on retreat that is known over in North Carolina or up in Michigan. So it's going to be unique. It's going to be neat. And once we have the parameters laid out, everybody will know.
What is more unique? What is more unique than what we currently do? Correct.
Exactly. Right. We're breaking down the square box.
Yeah, exactly. And you guess how we did it? Right there. That's how we did it. All these people that got together and said, why not? And that's the beauty of it. You make me so proud, folks, because you've answered the questions that's been reluctant. People have been reluctant to answer over years because of fear of being trapped into them. So we're not, and this is going to be great. This is going to be great. And I'm looking forward to it. It's go back 50 years and how this all got started, all of it. And then you'll see where we're going is where it started, and then some. But I'm liking it. I'm liking it. It's going to be good. You went and got some pieces out of your shop, Matt?
I did. I've been playing around with a couple of things here, and I've been making some kitchen utensils. So let me do this. Yeah.
Hold on.
So
I got you.
I started off with a spoon. So, and these are kind of crude. These are my first time I've ever done that. And then I made a big paddle spatula. And these are finished with walnut oil, which is something new for me too. So, and then I this was a log on in my log pile this afternoon, and it's a vase, and I've been doing carving on it all afternoon. So I've been.
Ooh.
It's just one of these ideas that's been hanging out in my head for a couple of days, and I'm like, all right, I got to go make it happen. So this was all done this afternoon. So, like I said, we'll see.
You're incredible. I mean, no matter what your texture is, I mean, your vase is just beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
I mean, oh my God.
You know, you can do with that, playing with style and design.
You're something.
Yes, I do. But like, you know, I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about things and I can't get them out of my head. So I got to get in the shop and make it happen. So it's like, I don't know where I'm going with this next, but it's going to be fun. So, and this is, it's box elder. I should tell you guys that. So it's got some interesting color in it and some interesting junk in it.
Yeah, so a little flash of red in it. Yeah.
Yeah, right there. And there's a little bit of it here on the top of it, tier 2 up in the top there. So I'm probably going to paint this and all, so you won't be able to see much else on it, but other than the contours. So, but yeah, it's got some you can't, it looks better inside right than here in person than it does on the cameras. So thank you, Sheila. Yeah, it'll be fun. So it's I really like where the idea in my head is sort of like coming to fruition, which is always a good thing. So it's like, you know, you think about something and it's like, how am I going to do that, or will it work or not? And you know, I love being able to go in the shop and mess with it and try to make it happen. So, but that's what I've got. So I'll turn it back to y'all.
All right, great. Good stuff there, Matt.
Thank you.
So yeah, you know, on that, you know, the location is going to be Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. And so where we're going to be at a 60-acre closed compound Lions Club facility, a fraternal organization. They have wonderful accommodations for us, full 220, 110 power. You know, one of the bottlenecks that we're going to be up against is, you know, the number of lays that we can get in. You know, so we're definitely hoping for folks that are able to travel, if they have a midi or a mini lathe, that they'll be able to bring those with them, because the more lathes that we have, the more opportunity for everyone to be able to get on and do something while they're there. But you know, like I said, in the early planning stages, hammering out how we're going to do it, how we're going to pay for it, and then the number of people that are going to be able to come, and you know, more the merrier. And for the most part, you know, we're just all super excited about it, and I'm looking forward to seeing some excitement from the others here within the group. Eventually, here I'll get around to making a post online to the Facebook page. I'm pretty sure Dave's already got an excerpt with the announcement from last week that was posted on the web page. So, you know, good things coming. You know, this group we have really come a long way since it was just an idea over 5 years ago, when Eddie was just sitting at a SWAT table and being told, "Oh, you can never do this. Oh, it'll never happen."
Hey, let's not talk about the slot table. I got in trouble with that.
And then, you know, a few other members, you know, being told, "Oh, your group won't last that long," and then they'll check back in every now and then. "Hey, you still doing that group?" "Yeah, we are." "Why, would you like to come?" "Well, how much does it cost to come to it now?" "Well, absolutely nothing. You know, it's the same price as it was when we first started." And then they'll ask, you know, a couple of years later, "How much does it cost to come to it now?" "You know, it's the same price as before. We doubled it. It's still zero." And what's even more fantastic about it now is not only those of you that are going to SWAT this year, but because Captain Eddie is able to go back to SWAT almost 5 years to the date, and I know he's going to see those certain individuals.
Oh, they're gonna be there.
And you know my wording, what I would be saying. I would be shoving it down their throat, no ifs, ands, or buts. Look at what we're doing now. And it's
Well,
got to be a proud
no,
moment for Captain Eddie to be able to go back knowing what's going on. We're just doing great things, and it's all because of you. It's your turning club.
The way I look at it, I'm not gonna throw anything in anybody's face. What I want to say is, you missed the boat. The boat sailed, but you can get on board anytime you're ready.
Sure can.
Because this is your club, and everybody's welcome. We haven't turned anybody down or turned anybody away or told anybody we don't want your ideas or your thoughts or whatever. We've had a couple of folks come in and say, look, why don't we just go ahead and follow all the AAW guidelines and get on board with them? But that's not us. We're us. And not that I have anything against anybody else, but we're us. And I don't have a need to actually follow the crowd. I never have had that problem or that situation. So if it felt right and we did it, it works out for us. And I really, really love this. And I'm not a leader. I'm not in charge. We started this idea and you jumped on. And if you hadn't jumped on, it would have died quickly. So that's all I can say is I called, and most of the guys I called and asked, what do you think about, they're still here and they're still active and they're still raising hell and they're still fun to be around. And the people that are most involved are involved every single week and every single time we turn around. And it's not a clique. Please understand this. It's not a clique. It's not that we get together and talk about this and talk about that. We have these secret meetings and all that. There's nothing secret, folks. There really isn't. We're the worst secret keepers in the entire world because we don't have anything to hide. We don't have any secret. I came from a group that didn't want to talk about money. So we don't have to worry about money. We don't talk about it because you want a financial report, it's done. And that's not my big thing. My big thing is we don't get bottomed down by it. Right. So I want to hear more about you folks. If you can come up with another idea, another theme, another function, another gathering, another program, another change, something like that we should consider, talk to us about it. If it's your idea, share it with us. We're open. Really. It's not like, all right, in 2 years, we're going to be in Wisconsin. That doesn't mean we can't plan something else somewhere else, some other time with some other people or whatever. It's just jump on board and get there. Because if you don't, didn't your mama tell you that when you were in kindergarten? Go in and make a friend, be nice. Come home with a smile. That's been out there since you got here.
That's not what my mother told me, but okay.
Well, she told you don't pick your nose. That's what she told you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's right.
She told you to wear your underwear underneath your pants.
But
we got a few more galleries if we can squeeze them in. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I'm going to duck out, folks. I can't help too much. I'll see y'all next Wednesday night. Be good, and above all else, be safe and save the chat. All right. See y'all next week. What's time for gallery? Come on. What you got, Matt?
We got Dennis.
Hey, Chief.
Hello. I've been absent for a while. Sorry for that, but this is, I don't know if you can see it. This is an apple bowl that was turned green during the storm last week, and I dried it in a microwave trying to perfect that scenario, so it didn't come out too bad.
Nice grain.
That turned out all right. I like that.
Yeah.
Then this is just a little ash bowl that I had time to go ahead and turn.
Nice.
Great shape.
Trying to perfect my cuts.
Looks good there, Dennis. I like that hat too. Look at that. Worldwide Wood Turners.
Yep,
How
I'm
about
trying
that?
to spread the word when I get a
There you
chance.
go.
Sounds
right, who we
great.
got
And
next?
we also got Dan Smith popped in here. He's got something to show.
Oh, he's been here all night. He just wanted
Yeah.
to go last.
Yep. I did a little turning with my chainsaw. And I
Got a
got
cookie.
out quite a few of these. And after I cut them out, some are cracking, some aren't. But I noticed that when I was cutting them, I found a lot of them had ring shank in it. So those went in the fire pit, or I cut them up into other little things that I could use. So, and I've turned 4 bowls, letting them dry out right now, 11-inch and 10-inch and stuff. So if the wood falls down and you can get it, grab it. So that's all I got to say.
All right. Well, thanks, Dan.
Yep.
That's it.
All right. Well, that puts us at the top of the hour. Well, what a meeting we had tonight. What a great demo we had.
That was great.
And I got a comment I'd like to make if I got time. You
Go
hear
ahead,
me?
Terry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I
You wanna
just
be
wanted, I
highlighted?
don't know. I'm there. Oh, I'm muted? How'd I get muted?
No,
I'm
we're going to
not.
spotlight you. No, I was going to
Okay.
spotlight you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what we chatted a little bit about earlier. Anybody that's using any pressure treated lumber or any other materials that they're not used to, the internet has got a few advantages, and one advantage is an MSDS sheet on almost anything that you can buy or use. And when anybody's thinking about using pressure treated lumber, I strongly recommend that they pull up the MSDS on it and look at it and read it. There's some really toxic chemicals in that stuff. And when you turn it in the shop, you're putting all that contaminated sawdust in the air. And I do not allow it in my shop at all. If I have to cut pressure treated lumber, I take it outside and wear a dust mask. I know nobody likes the safety guy, but that stuff is dangerous. And it's more dangerous in a confined space than it is building decks and houses with it. That's really all I had to say. Just be safe.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Terry.
good info, Terry.
It's true.
You should have talked to Brenda last week before she did that.
Yep.
Yeah, well, the reason I wanted to bring it up is because she's talking about making more of them. And if you can, find some lumber that's not pressure treated.
She will.
It's just not worth it.
Right. And you know what, as you mentioned that, I didn't even think about it, but I was wearing my mask when I was turning, but not all the time. And I didn't use it when I was sanding either. Didn't even
Yeah,
think.
well, not only that, you put that contaminated dust all over your shop.
Yeah. Well, you know what, that might explain why I've been feeling kind of lightheaded and dizzy lately.
Well, it can cause permanent problems. There's cyanide in some of it and everything. There's bad chemicals. And be careful. Everybody be careful. I have a lot of respiratory problems, so I'm probably a little more aware than some other people are, but
yeah,
that's probably why I have them.
Yeah.
So that's all I got.
Right on, Terry. All right. Well, with that, we're at the top of the hour. So this will mark the ending of the official meeting and the creation of the after hours meeting. So I will keep the meeting open for a couple more hours, 3 more hours, 4 more hours, depends. It's hot out here, who knows? But this time when folks that want to booger off without saying goodbye, they can go ahead and booger off without saying goodbye. Nobody's going to have their feelings hurt. And then for those that want to stay on, it's time for you to get to know those of us that are still on, little bit better. And then for those of us that do know each other a little bit better, time for us to give each other a hard time. So